My question relates to I know we have close ties with the US. We share intelligence. My questions relate to release of the report on the 25th of June 2021 by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, Preliminary Assessments, Unidentified Aerial Phenomena. This is an issue that has been raised in Congress. The Department of Defence has submitted a report. It's become a significant matter of public interest. And I suppose my first question is, are you aware of that report, Chief of Air Force?
I'm not formally aware of the report, but if I'm thinking there was an article in the newspapers, a commentary about that at some stage, but I'm not quite sure of the content of the report.
Okay. Just as a matter of interest, what questions did you think I was going to ask?
I thought you were going to ask some questions about aircraft, but it sounds like you're going to ask questions about UFOs.
Well, we'd be very interesting to hear your views on this. Look, yes, it has been reported in the media extensively. Could I just ask you, since you've taken over as Chief of Air Force, in what capacity, if any at all, have you been briefed on the UAP phenomena since you've taken over the role in July?
Senator, I haven't had any specific briefings in relation to UAP since I've taken over.
The report says UAPs clearly pose a safety of flight issue and may pose a challenge to US national security. And then it goes on to talking about the 144 cases that the Pentagon looked at. Only one was clearly explainable, the others remain unexplained. They claim that after carefully considering the information, the task force reports that UAPs largely witnessed firsthand by military aviators and were collected from systems that were considered to be reliable, and that most reports describe these UAPs as objects that interrupted pre-planned training or other military activity. Could I ask whether the Australian Air Force or the Australian military also has any task force looking at UAPs? Is this something that you're familiar with at all here in your brief?
I'm not familiar with nor have seen any reports or information regarding UAPs in an Australian airspace context, and there's no Air Force-led task force that looks into this phenomenon.
In 1996, the Air Force ceased handling reports on UAPs, determined there was no scientific or compelling reason to continue to devote resources to that investigation. On what basis are you aware of is there any documentation around the process that led the Air Force to move away from devoting resources to investigating?
There's no history of that, Senator.
Are you aware of reports? I did raise this with the previous Air Marshal as well, of US military exercises being cancelled because of concerns around air safety and observations of UAPs?
I'm not aware of that.
As a pilot, have you seen any of the video footage that's been released by the US military?
Through professional curiosity, I did look at some of the videos that were attached to those media reports. They were interesting but not compelling to me, and I don't believe everything that I read in the media.
No. Navy and Air Force crews now have a step-by-step reporting procedure on UAPs on their knee board in the cockpit and in their post-flight debrief procedures. Does that surprise you?
We've seen no reason why we would institute those measures in Australia.
Would you understand why they are implementing?
No, Senator.
Is there a reason you haven't had a discussion with our chief ally about why they're implementing those procedures?
I was not aware of those procedures, Senator.
Basically, they're saying they can't explain what these things are, but they would like to better understand them.
Yeah, Senator, I can't answer for another sovereign nation. That is a matter for the US and the Pentagon and the Department of the Defence in the US.
The Deputy Director of Naval Intelligence, Scott Bray, confirmed that since the release of this preliminary report in 2021, they now had 400 case reports they were considering. Most of them were for pilots like yourself. And he was quoted at those hearings as saying the US had brought many allies and international partners into their discussions on UAPs. Given how close we are to the US, has there been any discussions with Australian intelligence services or the Air Force in relation to their
I'm not aware
approach
of
to
any
this?
formal discussions that we've held with the US.